Welcome to the part 2 of the TSASK presentation on changes to the B149 2025 edition. This section will be covering the point 2. Once again, I'm Doug McKinnon and I'll be your presenter. In this presentation, we will go through the changes to the CSA B149.2 Propane Storage and Handling Code and the Saskatchewan Codes of Practice for the point 2 for the 2025 code cycle. This presentation will cover the substantial changes to the B149.2 Propane and Storage Handling Code and the interpretations in the latest edition of the 2025 Saskatchewan Codes of Practice for the B149.2 2025 edition. Once again, like the presentation for the B149.1, the point 2 presentation will have slides for national code changes with a white background. The Saskatchewan Codes of Practice will have a blue background for their slides. The Saskatchewan Codes of Practice for the point 2 section has also been reorganized into 2 sections. Interpretations, which are enforceable. The second section is informative, which is just good reference material that contractors find useful. We will start in section 3 with definitions. We have added 3 new definitions to the point 2 code in 2025. Gas cartridges, a non-refillable container meeting the requirements for 2P, 2P2, or 2Q, gas cartridges for containment and transportation of propane under Transportation Canada's Transportation of Dangerous Goods regulations. This definition comes from the Canadian National Standards Board, CSA B149 that was published in April of 2022. Self-service vehicle fuel dispenser. A vehicle fuel dispenser for use by the public for conducting dispensing operations. Public refueling of auto gas vehicles is currently allowed in Europe and is allowed in many states in the United States. Indications are predicting this will become more popular in the next few years here in Canada as well. Underground tanks. The previous code mentions only underground tanks, while mounted tanks are not mentioned as such, but are subjected to the same issues that underground tanks are. The new definition encompasses that underground tanks are either buried or mounted. Just a reminder that all underground tanks need approval from TSASK gas inspections prior to installation. Section 5. General requirements for propane and propane equipment. 5.12.7. Vehicles equipped with propane appliances shall be allowed indoors of a repair garage when A. The garage has personnel trained on site in the repair and maintenance of vehicles equipped with propane appliances. B. The propane tanks are shut off except when the propane is required for testing purposes. Vehicles parked or stored in the garage while unattended need to meet clause 5.12.6, which has you remove the propane tanks or be below 50% capacity, all valves shut off, and parking facility is approved for this use. Food trucks, trailers, and carts need to follow Annex J. For everyone building or working on mobile outdoor food service units, Annex J in the B149.3 code is mandatory in Saskatchewan. This is to align the requirements for mobile outdoor food service units in the province. Section 6. Cylinder systems. 6.5.1.3. Dwelling unit storage. Not more than 3 containers, cartridges, or non-refillable cylinders manufactured to TC39M shall be stored in a dwelling unit. Here are some common ones that you will see. This is good information to pass on to your customer for compliance. 6.5.2.4. was reworded and clarified to align with the National Fire Protection Association Part 58, also known as the Liquid Petroleum Gas Code. Part C has a change from property line to line of adjoining property. The intent stays the same. 6539 is for cylinders during construction. They can be located below grade in a 1 or 2 family dwelling or in row housing. The area needs to be well ventilated with no source of ignition within 10 feet. Installed on a level, non-combustible base that is solid. With this clause, it is not acceptable to use a cylinder set on a wooden pallet in a hoarded-in basement with a construction heater to thaw the ground. 674, below grade. This is a wording change that adds the term except as specified in clause 6539. This code gives the requirements if a cylinder is to be installed in a niche in a slope or a terrace wall, provided the cylinder or regulating equipment are not in contact with the ground. B. The compartment or recess is drained and ventilated horizontally outdoors from its lowest level. And C. The discharge outlet from any relief is located 3 feet horizontally from any building opening that is below the level of such discharge outlet. 678, separation, is a clarifier to 718 for tanks. It states that you can have a 420-pound pig or 4 100-pound cylinders manifolded together adjacent to a fuel tank of 250 gallons. But if the fuel capacity of the fuel tank is over 250 gallons, or the aggregate of the propane is over 420 pounds, then you need a separation of 20 feet between the two. This is something you need to be aware of on construction sites, farmyards, or anywhere flammable or combustible liquids may be stored. Section 7. Tank systems, filling plants, and refill centers. The next 3 clauses are a breakdown and clarification of existing codes that fall under 7110, interconnected tanks in liquid service. 7110.1, tanks that have a liquid interconnection shall be installed so that the maximum permitted level of each tank is at the same elevation, except as allowed in clause 7110.2. 7110.2. Container evacuation at a filling plant. This is the exception to the previous clause. The tank used to evacuate containers may be at any elevation provided a backflow prevention device is installed in the liquid service between the main storage tank and the evacuation tank. 7110.3, vertical tank restrictions. This has been a long time restriction in the code, but it has been moved into its own subclause to help clarify. Vertical tanks used for liquid cannot be manifolded to a horizontal tank or to a vertical tank of different dimensions. 724. Shutoff valve or other device location. This code aligns the B51 boiler code with the B149.2 for better consistency in industry. Shutoff valves cannot be installed between a relief valve and the tank unless A. You have a second relief valve that maintains the full flow capacity required for the tank, or B. An integrated management system from the manufacturer shall be established that controls the operation of the isolation valve that does not inhibit operation of the pressure relief valve while installed. 7.8. Installation of underground tank. 781. General. An underground propane tank shall only be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's installation instructions and clause 7.8. Like everything in the industry, follow the manufacturer's instructions, and clause 7.8 lays out national requirements like cathodic protection on the tank, corrosion control and monitoring, tank flotation prevention, and much, much more. Remember to contact your local inspector or Brent at Codes and Standards during the design portion of the job to get the necessary approvals. Plus, you will need to contact TSASK boiler and pressure vessels for their requirements to bury a pressure vessel. 7.10.2 Location of above-ground tanks for consumer applications. An above-ground tank used in a consumer application shall be located in accordance with Table 7.4. This clause was simplified and reworded to deal with the basic requirements that they need to meet Table 7.4. 7.10.3 Clearance for consumer tanks less than 125 U.S. water gallons. This code was renumbered and reworded, but the intent has not changed. You can have 420 pigs manifolded together against a common wall of a building. If you install a second bank of tanks, they need to have a 10-foot separation. And B, when you have tanks of different sizes manifolded together, the largest tank shall determine the minimum distance as per Table 7.4, not the aggregate of all the tanks. 7.10.4 Clearances for consumer tanks over 125 U.S. water gallons. This is a wording change, but the intent stays the same. Part A allows for a reduction in clearances for tanks over 125 U.S. water gallons up to and including 500 U.S. water gallons to be reduced by 3 feet if they meet the requirements of 1, 2, and 3. Just a note for Part 1, ICF block walls do not qualify for this requirement as the block itself is not non-combustible. For Part B, if the wall is built of material other than concrete or masonry, clearances may be reduced if the protection is acceptable to the authority having jurisdiction, which is TSASK. So talk to your local inspector or Brent with Codes and Standards. We've been referring to Table 7.4 throughout this section. Just a reminder that this table is based on the total aggregate and not just single tank capacity. This is a good time to review the common size of a 1,000 U.S. water gallon tank. 10 feet from property line, building opening, source of ignition, and building wall. These requirements make it difficult to set a tank at a recreational property in the province. Now the most common installation I see is 420 pigs manifolded together beside the cabin. This installation meets the requirements for clearances in Table 7.4. 7.20.14 Self-Service Vehicle Fuel Dispensers. This is a new section for the 2025 code cycle. The point 1 of this clause takes away the requirement that in this application the person needs to hold a certificate from the jurisdiction having authority. Point 2 says that the dispenser needs to be certified to UL 495 of CSA 12.4. Point 3 gives a specification for the nozzle to ISO 19825 for a Type K15. Continuing to point 4, emergency instructions shall be posted conspicuously in the dispensing area. Point 5, emergency shutoff needs to be at least 20 feet away, but not more than 100 feet from the dispenser. And finally, point 6, the outlet pressure shall not exceed 350 psi. This concludes the presentation for the Point 2 code. Don't forget to check out our website at www.tsask.ca. You can also contact us by phone or email. If you have any questions in regards to this presentation, please reach out to your local TSASK gas inspector.